as HRN. So I'm going to be going over some of these questions that we gotten for pulmonary and cardiac rehabilitation, of course. So first off, pulmonary rehab is the rehabilitation of your lungs. The cardiac rehabilitation is the rehabilitation of your heart. Now, when somebody says rehabilitate, what are they trying to say? Are they trying to say they're curing you? No, they're not saying they're going to cure you. What we're doing is fixing your life or your disease, how severe it is, to let it be not as severe. Okay, so that's what we do. Okay, we do have a lot of people that have like end-stage lung disease and they go up on their lung functions, but that's based off of somebody putting in the exercise and the time needed to be rehabilitated. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions or anything, please write in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer any types of questions that get raised up in here. All right, so first off so I'm going to go over some of these questions. One is how to control flare-ups and prevent exacerbations. So first off, COPD exacerbation, we tend to look at COPD exacerbations like this. This is how I look at it is let's say I have right here is an exacerbation bomb, if you would. So we have a wick or a fuse, okay? So when I'm writing things up and I'm demonstrating what is an exacerbation, I first tend to go over, what is an exacerbation in general. So first off, it's not exasperation, it's exacerbation, because a lot of people, the pronunciation can make it sound like it's something else. Good morning. So anyways, so with an exacerbation bomb, usually the first symptom, it's not always. Usually it's a fever. It could be low grade. Okay. And that just, as soon as I get that, I just lit my fuse. Because now I'm a ticking time bomb. Okay. Let's say I was having, first let's look at the point of no return. Okay. So the point of no return is if you're feeling this type of symptom, and Terry Haas. Hi, Terry. If you're feeling this type of symptom, usually, and let's say if you're lucky to get out of that, the point of no return is where the symptoms get so severe that there's nothing else you can do but besides go to the hospital. And at that point, you probably get intubated. If not, be close to losing your life. So the point of no return, I'm not going to put up there yet. I'm going to just put PNR as point of no return. That's what the acronym's for. So where would yellow congestion or green congestion be put at on this exacerbation bomb? Remember, the more severe it is, the more this fuse will go down closer to this. If the fuse gets to the point of no return, then it's pretty much over. Unless you're lucky, okay? And I hate to use the word lucky, but it's accurate. So fever is usually the first symptoms. Yellow congestion to green congestion is about right here. Okay, yellow to green sputum. All right. Now, when your symptoms are, you're feeling that let's say you're wheezing, but it's uncontrollable. Okay? Uncontrollable wheezing, meaning you take your respiratory medication, it doesn't do anything. You feel like the exact same way. The chest tightness is still very severe. Everything else is still severe. So it's uncontrollable wheezing is just below the point of no return. But what's even lower than that is when your SpO2 goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. Let's say somebody's usual oxygen levels are at 98%. During exacerbation, a lot of times they'll be down to low 90s, maybe even like 89% oxygen. But as soon as they move just a little bit, it drops really suddenly. It just drops, and it takes forever for it to come back up. That means that's uncontrollable, right? SpO2 values are uncontrollable, meaning that they just keep going down, right? They take forever for it to come back up, but then as soon as you move a little bit, they drop back down. Uncontrollable wheezing is where you take your respiratory medications. Good morning. You take your respiratory medications, but it seems like it's not doing anything, okay? So first off, an exacerbation is a heightening of current symptoms. So if, let's say, somebody has chronic bronchitis, then they have a heightening of bronchitis. They have a heightening of that. You know, if they have, with that bronchitis, they have a lot of congestion, they'll have an overabundance amount of that. So it's a heightening of current symptoms. That's an exacerbation. Usually it's a low fever, you know, very low grade fever. Let's say somebody, let's just say hypothetically, I want to see if you know. So anyways, as the wick burns down, the person is getting too close to this, right? Because if the fuse burns all the way down to here, it's over. So the point of no return is when the SpO2 or uncontrollable wheezing, when the SpO2 drops really dramatically. So now fever, let's look at a fever really quick. Because this is something where people get, and they get a little confused about. If somebody's temperature, normal temperature, let's say is 98.7, okay? You can put a 98.6, but let's say the person's temperature is 98.7. If they increase to, let's say, 98.8 or 98.9, is that still considered a fever? Yes, it is. It's a low-grade fever. It's a little, I mean, we have patients that just one little 0.1 increase on their temperature lands them into the hospital. We have people like that. We have people that are sensitive like that. So even though that might not be considered a fever because it's not going up to 99, it's not going up to 100, and you know it's 98.9, it's still considered a fever. It's a low-grade fever though. Anytime you're starting to feel sick, but you're not completely sick yet, you always want to let your doctor know ASAP, okay, as quickly as possible. Now, so as far as fevers go, mind you, I am going to bring up some tips on with fevers and things like that and what to do about it. But the main thing on what I want to take away from the exacerbation part, anytime somebody waits till the last minute until that fuse gets burned down, right? Anytime somebody waits till the last minute, they're usually going to wind up in the hospital. Never, ever, ever procrastinate. Don't wait till the last minute. You don't even have to go to the hospital. Just call your doctor and just describe your symptoms. You know, he or she will know exactly what you're talking about and be like, you know, all right, stop by Walmart or, stop by this pharmacy, pick up the medication, call me in 7 days. Don't come in. I already know what this is. I mean, if you're vague with your symptoms, if you're a little vague, it's a little not obvious, you know, then the doctor will say, well, come and see me. Let's see what's going on. Or, you know, your doctor might say, just go to the hospital, you know. But if you're really good with your symptoms and you jot down your symptoms of how you've been feeling for the past couple days, and you bring that up with your doctor as you're feeling, you know, your temperature's going up just a little bit, but you don't want to wait till the last minute, you know, just describe to your doctor exactly what's going on or what's happening. My husband is end stage and is going through this. He is always pulled through. See, they don't admit him anymore. This has been going on for years. Okay. Tony, Terry, if you could, usually when the body's responding like that, it's communicating with you. Like your temperature's always going up, you know, and no point of being admitted. There are things that you can do. So that's an abnormal effect, right? So somebody's temperature going up, it should be staying pretty still, you know, sometimes. It should be staying still. It shouldn't be moving that much. It shouldn't have huge amount of fluctuations. It should be very mild fluctuations in temperature, very, very mild. SpO2, you know, oxygen, we should have it fluctuate, you know, within range. So what is the normal range for oxygen? Does anybody know? What's the normal range for oxygen? Because it's never one number. Because this happens all the time when people, my patients come to me and they're like, I say, what's your oxygen reading? Instead of showing me their pulse ox, they say that, oh, it's 98. Oh, now it's 96. Oh, it's 94. Now it's 98 again. I said, okay, well, it's a range of numbers. Are you within good range? So what is the range of oxygen for somebody who is normal, let's say? Normal ranges are around 88 to 100. Okay? That's the normal ranges that we look at. A lot of people will say stay at 90 or greater, even equal to. All right, but the actual normal range is about 88 to 100. It's not 90 to 95. It's not 88 to 96 is close enough, but it's 88 to 100%. Okay. Now, just imagine this: that 100% comes into your body of oxygen. 100% comes in, and 100% is left over. Meaning, you check with your pulse ox because you're measuring what's left over. You're never on a pulse ox. You're never checking what's coming into the body. You're checking what's left over. Because if let's say air comes in, oxygen comes into your lungs, all right, it goes straight to your blood. Where's the first place that pulls oxygen out? Which organ? Does anybody know? It's your heart. How much does your heart consume right there? 20%. Now it goes to your brain. How much did your brain consume at rest? Just to keep it alive. How much did your brain consume? 30%. Well, that's 50% right there. Okay, that's 50%. Just got pulled out of the blood. So imagine 100% comes in and 100% is left over on your pulse ox. How much did your body consume? Nothing. Barely anything, unless your respiratory rate's very, very high and your volume's very high and you're just over-breathing it, Because like if I take one breath right now, let's say I take one breath. That one breath will probably only last about 8 to 12 seconds in my system. So that means I have to breathe more frequently. So if I just took one breath, all the organs are consuming that oxygen from that one breath. Now, if I hold my breath and I don't keep breathing, then the oxygen level is going to go down, 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 because the oxygen is constantly getting pulled out, right? But if I keep breathing, oxygen levels stay up. But if I hold my breath, obviously oxygen will go down, of course, because I'm not bringing in any more oxygen. Okay. So normal ranges. Is it okay to have a normal range of, let's say 80? Let's say 80. Let's say 83. 83%. Would that be normal? Would that be okay? Sure. Sure, it can be. Yeah, of course. We have people that their normal oxygen, their range is, their normal range is at. Yes, it is. Cheryl. Yes, I'm the clinician here. I'm telling you, straight up, okay? 83 is fine because there's still 83% of oxygen in the blood the body could have consumed. It's not depleted down to zero. There's still 83% the body could have consumed. Why would that be looked at as bad? It's not looked at as bad. Somebody can have a normal oxygen sat at 83 and still be okay. They can live 100 plus years. This is not my theory. This is based off of fact. If you go into a doctor's office and let's say they don't know you and they saw 83, they're going to say, oh, that person needs supplemental oxygen, this person needs this, this person needs that. You go to a pulmonologist and they do a blood gas and do other tests, they're like, okay, so that is actually going to be your normal. That oxygen sat's going to be your normal. So that doctor's, going to put that in the chart. So the next time you go to another doctor, okay, the doctor's like, oh, that's your normal oxygen sats. Okay, so 83 is your normal. No, you shouldn't worry if it gets down that low. Your body's supposed to be consuming oxygen. Imagine if your body wasn't consuming oxygen. If 100%, it's okay if you didn't know. That's what we're doing this for. But let's say, here's your lungs. Mind the artwork, of course. All right, you got your heart, and you got your brain. Okay, you got your liver. All right? Liver, heart, and brain consume the most amount of oxygen. You still have the integumentary system, that's the skin. You still have the lymphatic, nervous system, the whole entire works. All the body needs oxygen. So if 100% of, let's just pretend, okay? If 100% of oxygen comes in, and this is supposed to consume 20%, this is supposed to consume 35, and this is 30% oxygen. So let's say heart's supposed to consume 20, okay? So now it's down to 80. It goes to the brain, that consumes 30, now it's down to 50. And then it goes down to here, it goes to the liver. Liver consumes a lot of oxygen, okay? And at the very end, you know, you have a lower oxygen amount. Well, that's just because you took one breath and you held it, let's say, all right? If 100% comes in, and let's say 100% is left over on your pulse oximeter, how much did the brain consume? None. How much did your heart consume? 0. Because I'm left over with 100%. Unless there's a lot of oxygen going into my body. Like if I have supplemental oxygen and I increase it dramatically high, you know, that's a very bad thing to happen, you know. But let's say that happens, the body's consuming what it needs, but there's so plentiful amount of oxygen that I'm left over with 100%. Or my body is just so physiqued. You know, it can, you know, it exercises every day. I exercise every day, let's say, and then my body can tolerate certain exercise levels. Then my oxygen probably wouldn't drop very much at all, okay? Now, if you take somebody with lung disease, I'm not saying just COPD, just lung disease, okay? All right, let's say 0, this is in milliliters, this is in pounds. Okay, you got ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Diaphragm. Okay, so the muscles in between the ribs work for respiratory muscle growth, basically. The muscles in between the ribs are also promote, you know, where muscle pulls the lungs open and gets air into it, you know. There's no real muscle inside the lungs itself, just so you know. There's nothing you could use. All right, so the body, there are some muscles tied around things, but it's nothing like where you can exercise them, okay? So the muscles responsible for opening up the lungs are the intercostal muscles and the big diaphragm right there, okay? So let's say the disease is found up here. And the disease is, let's say the disease was severe enough where your forced expiratory volume, or your FEV by 1 second with your forced vital capacity, let's say your lung function scored a 13% functional, okay? Is this talking about these right here? Is that pulmonary function testing what you cannot inhale? No. It's only measuring what you can inhale, and according to this, person's breathing so shallow and their volume on their incentive spirometer, let's say, is at 500, it's only going to measure the disease on the top lobes because that's all you can open up. It's not measuring the bottom ones because you can't breathe in that deep. So the 13% is actually coming from the top, not from the bottom, okay? So the 13% is coming from the top. So if a 13% functional lung is on top, how functional are the ones below that? Very functional, because if they weren't exposed, because you can't breathe in deep enough to expose them to smoke inhalation, pollution, and household cleaners, dust, pollen, how could they be as damaged? They can't, okay? They can't. So how do we get from 13 back to 60 back up to 70? I have to increase my surface area in my lungs to go into areas that are not as damaged as the ones on the top. And now when I do another pulmonary function test, that's a PFT, I do another pulmonary function test once my volumes have grown, have developed. All right, and then I go from 13, and let's say these are 80% functional because they're not 13% functional, all right, because you can't open these. You increase your surface area in your lungs, and let's say now on your incentive spirometer, instead of 500, you're breathing at 2,000. Okay, so you had a 1,500 milliliter improvement in your lungs. And you do another pulmonary function test, it's not going to measure it at 13. It's now getting to, and those are going to be sent over to the machine, the pulmonary function test machine, and it's going to see that. It's going to sense that. So the 13% will go back up to around 50, 60, you know, and you're left with, at the very end, you know, 50 to 60% functional lung instead of a 13% end stage lung disease. So that's how that works, is we have to increase lung capacity, all right, making them more compliant. My husband had 3 different stem cell therapy. They've helped for a while. I got you. I have pulmonary hypertensive tension and have a hard time breathing. What are some tips for me? So with pulmonary hypertension, where's the problem? Is 3,000, 3,400 on the incentive spirometer I got from you good? Yes, it is. 3,400 is very good, you know. Now imagine this. Imagine you came into the program with lung capacity maxed out, where, you know, instead of 500 milliliters on your incentive, you're maxing out. Let's say you came in with severe lung disease and it was found throughout your whole entire, all of them, because you can open them up. Let's say you have a patient here. Look, I'll write it like this, just so it's not confusing, because sometimes I can sound a little confusing and I don't mean to be. So let me write it up like this. You take patient 1, okay, and then you have patient 2, patient 1 has a volume of 500 milliliters, and the person is, let's say, 6 foot. Okay, person is 6 foot tall. That person is easy to rehabilitate. Why? Why is this person easy to rehabilitate than patient number 2? Patient number 2 has a volume of, let's say, 4,000. They have the same identical FEV1. Let's say this one is 13%, and let's say this one is 13%. Still end stage, still end stage. The person also is 6 foot tall. Okay, first off, what is the proper lung volume for somebody who is 6 foot tall? What's the proper amount of air that should be coming into the person's lungs, maxed out? Does anybody know? Does anybody want to if anybody wants to respond, go ahead and respond to it. So at 6 foot, the person should be around 5,000. Their goal would be 5,330 milliliters max lung volume capacity. And the same thing with this one, 5,330 milliliters. Okay, that's the max that person's lungs are capable of bringing in. Okay, the 13%, because if you look at simple physics of how lungs actually open, lungs don't open up like this. They open up top first, middle second, the bottom is always last. Okay, so when somebody breathes shallow, it's easy to breathe shallow because the lungs are smaller on the top. The apical sides of the lungs are smaller. So it doesn't take a lot of strength to breathe shallow. It takes more effort to breathe deeper because you have to open up the whole entire thing. Okay? So the person has 13%. They can, you know, they have, according to calculations, and this is how we put people on ventilators. We take measurements like this. So anyways, the person is supposed to be at 5,330 max, okay? But their volume is only at 500. That means there's a lot of surface area to improve to get that lung function back up. Whether this person, their lung volume is at 4,000. Their max is 5,330. So they only need a 1,330 milliliters of improvement. This person is actually easier to rehabilitate than this person. This person is going to be tougher to rehabilitate, still rehabilitatable, by the way, still rehabilitatable. This person is tougher because the volume is at 4,000, meaning the lung disease is now, it's not going to be found on the top, it's going to be found throughout the whole entire lung. It's going to be harder to rehabilitate that person than this. This person, all I have to do is increase the lung volumes more surface area, get them to tolerate more exercise at a higher metabolic level, and then that person can graduate without having much difficulty anymore. You know, that person's probably going to need a little bit more time with me, just because some of that volume is so high. So when they were trying to make it easy to understand, I think some people understand it, but I just want to make it a little more easier. If I'm breathing shallow, the exposure is found to the top, because that's what I'm exposing. I can't expose the bottoms because I haven't been breathing deep. Okay, so the exposure is found on the top part of the lungs. And even if I try to take a deep breath, it won't open all the way. My deepest breath is at 500. Because why? Why isn't the bottoms being worked out as just as much as the top? Because each of these ribs work independently. They don't work at the same time. They try to, but they don't work at the same time. The top part of the muscles require about 3 to 4 pounds of pulling pressure, you know, in order to open up the lungs to about 5 to 700 to 1,000 milliliters. To get to the middles, they take around 4 to 6 to 8 pounds of pressure. To get to the very bottom parts, they take about 12 pounds, if not a little bit more, of pulling force to open up the lungs that deep. So that's how much muscle you need. So let's say you've been breathing shallow. When do these muscles down here get worked out? They don't. It's the same thing as I'm going into a gym, lifting and doing partial repetition. I'm not doing full repetition, I'm doing partial. Well, if I keep this up, I'm not going to get a good benefit out of this muscle. This muscle will not benefit from the exercise I'm doing because I've been constantly doing partial repetition. Did you notice the same thing with shallow breathing? If you're breathing shallow, not all these ribs and the diaphragm is being utilized to its max capacity, all right, because you're breathing so shallow. So the tops are only the ones that are getting worked at, while the bottoms are being neglected, okay? This person's volume is all the way up, where they can max out on their incentive spirometer at 4,000, and that person's 6 foot tall. So they're almost maxed out, where now the lung disease is found throughout the whole lung, versus the person breathing shallow, that the lung disease is only found on the top. It's not found on the bottom because the person wasn't able to breathe in that deep to expose the bottom parts of the lungs. Does that make sense to everybody? I had valves done in 2020, and lungs were functioning better. Now I'm struggling again on 3 inhalers, not really helping. I do some work and sit down. I got you, Margaret. The best thing I could say about that is come and talk to me personally. You know, you can do it through Zoom, FaceTime, you know, something like that. We usually do it through Zoom. But if you talk to me, I can at least find out what I can do to basically rehabilitate you completely, okay? And mind you, keep that in mind. You want me to rehabilitate you. You want somebody like me to rehabilitate you. You know, I rehabilitate people all the time. That's all we ever do in HRN, is we rehabilitate people with lung and heart disease, because we're a certified virtual program, okay? So let me see. My FEV is 3.37 pre, reference is 2.66, very good. 127% reference, 3.41 post. So yeah, you definitely improved there. Is that a good number? Yes, it is, Laura. That is a very good number. You're improving your lung functions. And you know what's crazy is that a lot of people thought your lung functions can improve when they improve if you know how to work them. And of course, HRN knows how to work them out very well. A lot of pulmonary rehab programs don't. I was mentioning with Dr. Shaw earlier that why don't we do a control study with another, and that's because of my program, yeah, I know. Well, it takes the team, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Laurie. I'll take some of the credit, though. I wanted to do a control study at a facility that didn't use HRN techniques. Just because I know, and everybody else would know that the outcome wouldn't be very high. So I wanted to see, look at a comparison. So Kevin Blyden did a comparison and did a study, a white paper study at Sinai Hospital. When they did the study, they showed that we had the lowest hospital readmission rate throughout the whole entire United States, if not the world. It was down to 2.4%. Down to 2.4. That's ridiculous. That is amazing that we could do that. we can stop hospital readmissions and drop it down to 2.4%. The national average is around 30 to 50%. When you go to the hospital or facility, the chance of you going back to the hospital after that are very much higher than with us. We have people that return back to the hospital like 3-4 times in a month. Not kidding, 3-4 times in a month. And those same people after our therapy, and we know this because we're always monitoring them. We always want to monitor people even after therapy to make sure that they're still okay, everything's still okay, and and so forth. It's just what we do. But this patient, which I can't mention names because of HIPAA regulations, this one person, this has happened so many times, it's just ridiculous of how insanely awesome it works. But anyways, this person was returning back to the hospital like 3-4 times in a month. It's been a year. The person has only returned back to the hospital one time. That's a big change. So that's what it means, out of one time. Admitted into the hospital one time, okay, admitted. How can I get into your program? Well, getting into the program is very easy. All you have to do is just call us. You just call us up. It's the Home Rehab Network. You can type it in, but it's just Home Rehab Network, HRN, Home Rehab Network. Just type that into a Google search and it'll bring it up, but you just have to go to the Home Rehab Network webpage. Just type in homerehabnetwork.com and it'll bring it straight up. There's a lot of programs in HRN because it's a network of programs. That's why it's called Home Rehab Network. You rehabilitate yourself from your own home, all virtually, of course. So the outcomes that we saw are just very dramatic and in a good way. All right, very good. Does insurance cover this? Of course insurance covers this. Yes, this is a certified program, so insurance would cover a certified program. And yes, we are covered by insurance. And the number 871-4601 is their number, is what Laurie wrote down, which is true. Well, you can just look in the comment section. It's 410-871-4601 if you're trying to get into the program. Just mind you, in the program, we don't mess around. If you're legitimately wanting to get better, we're one of the best shots you got. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. Okay, we are one of the best shots you have of actually improving your overall situation. Okay, I have patients that came in. I have some new patients came in. They're only 2 weeks in, but already they're at a point where they're not going to need me anymore. Okay, but that's just 2 weeks in. I don't like just 2 weeks. I like larger amount of consistency. I saw a post of this live that someone commented, it was a scam, and that upset me very much. I'm not sure why people say that. Like, I don't know why somebody would say something like that. No, it can't be a scam because we're certified and we get audited by insurance. It's mandatory. They're mandatory audits. So if they saw anything funky, they would never keep continuing certifying us. We've been in business for a long time now, The virtual pulmonary rehab that we developed was done before anybody else came out in the market. So HRN was the first telemedicine company that provided pulmonary and cardiac rehab. All right, so we were the first ones out there before COVID happened. So we were out there before COVID. So we've been around for some time now. So yes, we've been in business for a long time. Yes, we're certified. I'm an actual clinician. I'm under the Maryland Board of Physicians as a respiratory care practitioner. You can easily look it up. Alexander Grichuhin, go to Maryland Board of Physicians. Just type in Maryland Board of Physicians, just look me up. And of course, I'm licensed, have an active license, nothing bad on my reports at all. So yeah, we're a certified program. So yeah, we can't be a scam. I think people are just not smart when they say that. They're just, or they get scammed a lot or something and they think everything they see is a scam or something. I don't know how some people think like that, but we can't be a scam. It's impossible because we're certified. Can you help bronchiectasis? Yes, that's part of COPD, of course. Does everybody know the 5 types of COPDs? You have cystic fibrosis, bronchiectasis, okay, bronchiectasis. All right, what else? Emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and what? Asthma, 5 types. of COPDs. Now, the asthma, first starting of asthma is not usually COPD. It's when it's not managed. So if somebody's disease is not being managed very well, then it can turn into an obstruction, okay? Yeah, I don't know where I would be without this program. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm not sure who you are on that, but was it a scam? So obviously, yeah, we're not a scam. I don't know why people would say something like that. I think because it's online. You know, it's all done virtually, where you see me, I see you, but people don't realize that's how it is. Where, you know, we use Zoom, and we use the HIPAA compliant Zoom. So the regular Zoom, I don't think it's HIPAA compliant, but we pay extra to Zoom to have it regulated where it's HIPAA compliant. So no information, no personal information can be shared with anybody besides just, you know, you and me, basically. Okay. Let's see here. I just have my paper here. I just had the paper here. Did I put it down? Maybe it's down here. I accidentally fell down here a little bit. I see it. Okay. All right, next question. Does Medicare cover this? So I already answered that question, but yes, of course, Medicare covers it. How to deep belly breathe? Well, you might be referring to, on this question, you might be referring to diaphragmatic breathing, maybe. If you're referring to that, just do this exercise with me, okay? Mind you, this doesn't do anything besides controlling, okay? So it doesn't work on shortness of breath. Shortness of breath is caused by CO2 heightening. That's why a lot of information out there is not great information, because people are like, purse lip breathe when you want to catch your breath. How does that work on ventilation if you're slowing your breathing down? That doesn't make any sense. Now, you can splint some airways open, causing positive end expiratory pressure, but it's not going to get rid of more CO2. I mean, it's not like I breathe in a gallon of air and I'm exhaling a gallon and a half of CO2. That wouldn't happen. It's the same amount. So whether I breathe fast or slow, it's going to be the same amount. All right? Because how much oxygen comes into your blood from the atmosphere into your blood? When you breathe in, how much oxygen actually makes it to your blood? Does anybody know that? It's 4 to 6%. So if you ever go on Jeopardy and they mention that question, they ask that question, you'll get it right. 4 to 6%. It's not 100% of the oxygen comes from the atmosphere, it goes into my blood. It's only 4 to 6% of that goes into my blood. Okay? So on belly breathing, I like to work out. I don't like to neglect my intercostals, so I don't want to just work out diaphragm. I never do that with my patients. I don't just work out the diaphragm, because what if the diaphragm gets paralyzed? God forbid, let's say I get into an accident, or I'm intubated, and they accidentally pop a nerve, and that nerve disables my diaphragm, then I'm on a ventilator for the rest of my life. So how would that help you? It wouldn't. So I like to train people to intercostal and diaphragmatic. Watch, case in point. Let me bring this chair over here. Can we all agree that this is an incentive spirometer? Okay, so this is an incentive spirometer. This is what I train people. I'm going to paralyze my diaphragm by leaning over a lot. So when I breathe in, it's going to be tough to breathe in because my diaphragm won't expand, my stomach won't be distended. Okay? So a lot of people say they can't breathe like this. That's true because you're only focusing on your diaphragms. Let's say your diaphragm's paralyzed. Then luck. So what I do over here is I train people to work back intercostal as well as the front intercostal as well as the diaphragm. But if their diaphragm is paralyzed, there's a way around it. Something a lot of people didn't realize is true. If I lean over like this, okay, preventing my diaphragm from expanding, and if I just pick up and use my back intercostal muscles, I can pull in some volume. So let me show you. First, sitting up straight. okay? All the way up to 4,000. If not, it stayed up there for a little bit, so it's probably maxing out around 5,000. So watch this. I'm going to lean over, okay? According to a lot of doctors and research, I shouldn't be able to pick up volume because I am hunched over, preventing my diaphragm from expanding. So I shouldn't be able to breathe nor talk. Watch this. I can still pull in plenty of volume into my lungs. So if my diaphragm was paralyzed, I still have a way around it. That's why I don't like when people work out only their diaphragm. Clinicians do this all the time where they just work out the diaphragm, It's like, why are you neglecting these? God gave you these. Why are you neglecting them? I say, you just work out the diaphragm? You think that's the only muscle that's used for breathing? It's the diaphragm and intercostal muscles. Work them both out. Remember, we have a pair of one of each, usually. So like you have 2 lungs, you have 1 heart, you have 2 lungs, you have 2 kidneys, you got, so you have you can access different things, you just have to know how to do it, So yes, can I help with bronchiectasis? Of course I can. Any lung disease. I don't know where I would be without this program. Thank you very much. We do a really good job, but it's, I mean, you have some people that don't put a lot of effort into the program. They just sit there and that's it. They work out very little. They don't try to push themselves a little bit more. So they probably won't, they'll still benefit, but they won't get as high as somebody who actually puts in the effort. It's what I hate to say no pain's no gain, but it's what you put into the program, like how much you're working out into the program that gives you the best results. So you have somebody that works on respiratory muscle training, hyperinflation therapy, or some others, and they do it 6 times a day, 10 minutes each. Then you have another person that does it 1 time a day for 2 minutes. Well, obviously the person that's doing extra, doing the required amount is going to get a lot better than the person who's only doing 1 or 2 minutes of therapy. 1 or 2 or 3 minutes of therapy is not going to be therapeutic. Then I had a text message of a patient saying that, oh, I have to work, my job won't allow me to do this, stuff like that. And I was like, you're at a point with your lung disease that it's almost near the end for you. And you're going to want to go back to work, and what's going to happen with a progressive lung disease? It's just going to get worse. You're not going to focus on yourself, and there's a million reasons not to do something, but we're talking about your life and death here. Why would you stop it? I texted back, I said, are you improving in the program? And he says, yes, I love it. I'm improving dramatically. I says, then why would you stop something that's working? It'll be different if you tried everything you can and nothing happened, but that won't happen here because we just constantly work on you until we get the results we want. That's just the way it is. You want somebody like that. You don't want somebody who just walks in and say, all right, hey, Miss Jane, go ahead and do this 3 times, and I'll be back in a half hour. You don't want somebody like that. You want somebody who's going to study you, somebody that's going to work with you, that's going to talk to you, that's going to nurture you, hold your hand sometimes. You want somebody who's going to be with you, that is very good at what they do. That coach, that's who you want. You don't want somebody who just acts like they're a good practitioner. You want somebody who is a good practitioner, that gets results. So anyways, as I digress. All right, so on belly breathing, if you want to work on just belly breathing, sure, I can show you that. That's easy. 1 hand on your chest, 1 hand on your stomach as you breathe in. Stomach distends. Exhale, stomach comes back in. Intercostal muscle. Intercostal muscle, breathe in. Breathe out. Notice my diaphragm did not expand, okay, because I'm using only intercostal this time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Diaphragmatic. Chest did not move. When people try this, I usually will see them do this, where both of them are moving. You want to do just diaphragmatic breathing. Try to prevent your intercostals from moving if you want to just work on your diaphragm. Work it on. Work it back in. If you want to add some resistance to it, just grab something as simple as this. very cheap and inexpensive. A therapy band that's medium resistance, non-latex. That's just in case you have a latex allergy. Cross them, put on your belly. What does HRN stand for? HRN, Home Rehab Network. Stands for Home Rehab Network, HRN. All right, so I cross, I'm not going to tie, I'm just going to cross them. Put on my belly, I'm going to breathe in with diaphragmatic. What I'm doing is creating tension on my diaphragm, strengthening up my diaphragm. So I make sure there's plenty of tension there. Breathe in. If I want to work intercostal muscles, I can easily take therapy bands, put them on my ribs now, and repeat the same exercise, but not with my diaphragm anymore. I'm going to do intercostals. Just like that, okay? 6 times a day, 10 minutes each is what we saw as the honey spot, the sweet spot. When somebody does less than that, they don't get a lot of results. They don't get good results. They get some, but just not really, really good. If you devote 6 times a day, 10-minute sessions, and just do something like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes at night, just before you go to bed, you just did your full hour session, and for respiratory muscle growth. But just because you're working these out, you still might be out of breath because your legs are just very weak. You might be out of breath because you're out of shape. So you still have to work those out afterwards, and you still have to do, there's a lot of involvement. I mean, when I went to school for this, it was years upon years. I'm above a bachelor's, so it's years upon years upon years that you take all these other licensures and all these other certifications after graduation, So I'm not a CRT, I'm an RRT. I'm a registered respiratory therapist. But I also have advancements with advanced lung disease through the ACVPR, where I got those certifications and other certifications from everywhere else. So this is all I do. This is all we ever do. Shannon, Melanie, Millie, Lori, we just hired a new respiratory therapist, Lori, me, Dr. Shaw. We go to school for a long time, so you're going into a gym for a personal trainer. How long does a personal trainer, what does a personal trainer know as far as the breathing part? I took a personal training, I was a personal trainer a long time ago. So I know what the schooling is behind it. It's only 2 weeks. If somebody says, oh, it's 6 months, I'm a little quick on study. So it's 2 weeks. It's a 2-week thing to get a personal training license, and then you can add upon it. I'm not downgrading personal trainers, by the way. I'm just saying that you go to a clinician who has a medical license to get medical treatment, not somebody who goes for 2 weeks and they can help you on your workouts, okay? Like a physical therapist is not a personal trainer. Physical therapists do a lot of training, a lot of education. Respiratory therapists go through a lot of training, a lot of exercises and trainings. So you go to people who are specialized in it, right? Okay, what can I do to stop my oxygen from dropping when I get up in the morning? It drops to 82. Okay, so let's say I'm laying down flat. We only have a little bit of time left on this, guys. Let's say I'm laying down flat, okay? And the muscles rely on the body relies on the muscle it has when it sleeps. Let's say the muscles are very weak, okay? Is it possible throughout the night that you could be retaining a lot of CO2 or breathing very shallow? Yes, of course, okay? So you're laying flat, you wake up and you're out of breath. Why are you out of breath? And your oxygen is low, because now you have 2 animals working at you. You have your oxygen problem and you have your CO2 that's causing the heightening of work of breathing. What's the problem? Shallow breathing throughout the night. Okay, so we can use something like a PAP device, like a non-invasive ventilator, like a CPAP or a BiPAP. We can use that to help with that. Okay, and that will fix the problem, but only fixes it to a certain extent. Think about it. If the muscles are weak, what do you have to do? You just got to strengthen them up. That's it. The body just relies on what it has. If it can't lift something, you strengthen these up, and now it can lift it. If these can't open up the lungs more, then you work those out until they can. It's not rocket science. You know, I mean, some parts might be, but it's not real rocket science. But that's why you go to a clinician for this. So when your oxygen is dropping, when I get up in the morning, so what should I do? Before standing up, what should I do before I stand up? You need to hyperoxygenate yourself. What's the best way to hyperoxygenate yourself? Purse lip breathe for 10 seconds. Purse lip breathe. Your whole team is the best, was in the program 30 days. Then insurance denied me. Your team went to bat for me, and my insurance approved me again. I'm so grateful for all you do. Oh, absolutely, of course. I love the messages like that. That's great, guys. Thank you. Yes, we got your back. Our billers are really, really good. If an insurance denied you, they will fight. They will fight. It's like, look, this person needs that help. And you say, you got to get that person in that program. So no worries. I love that. That's really great. So if oxygen is dropping, hyperoxygenate. So easier said than done. How do we hyperoxygenate? Don't increase your oxygen. How do we do it? Laying down flat. I know if I stand up, my oxygen's going to drop. So what should I do? What should I do, guys? What should I do? Yes, they will, Brittany. What should I do? My oxygen's going to drop. I know it's going to drop. So what should I do before I get up? Hyperoxygenate. So how do you do that? Purse lip breathe. How do I purse lip breathe? No, this is not purse lip breathing. That's not purse lip breathing. That's just breathing with closed lips. It might look like purse lip breathing, but that's not purse lip breathing. Purse lip breathing is supposed to be enough pressure to splint airways open and forcing oxygen into the blood through the capillary, through the semi-impermeable membrane of your capillary walls. So I'm talking about your alveoli, to transport the oxygen past there. If you use a higher pressure, it's going to force the oxygen into your blood faster. Okay, so you purse lip breathe. Purse lip breathing, you do it like this. Breathe in through your nose. Purse your lips as if you were going to blow out candles 5 feet away. And a good way to measure it is to grab, this probably won't work that well, but grab a piece of tissue, hold it arm's length all the way out in front. Don't bend the arm. Don't do this. All the way out. Let's say I purse lip breathe. I want to see if this purse lip breathing will work. So I do this. It's not really doing anything. I'm pursing my lips. It's not doing much. That purse lip breathing won't work because it's not enough to move this violently. Okay? Like it's not moving it much. So if I pucker my lips a little bit tighter, okay, so that moved it pretty fair. So that's the pressure I want, not this one. That's not going to work. I need to purse my lips a little bit tighter. Now when I want to purse lip breathe, the pressure I use to move that tissue is what I want to do when I want to hyperoxygenate. So I purse lip breathe for how long now? 10 seconds. Purse lip breathe for 10 seconds before standing up will oxygenate you a lot quicker. So before getting completely up and standing, purse lip breathe for 10 seconds. You'll see your oxygen won't drop very far at all, if you do it right. Okay? But mind you, also look at what I brought up before, the lung disease. Is your lung disease found on the top and your volume is at 500? You probably won't have enough volume to actually move a piece of tissue because you're a human being, and a human being should be above 2,000 milliliters of volume, not at 500 milliliters like this. You don't have lungs this size. You have lungs this size. Why are you using lungs this size? You're breathing way too shallow. It's not going to be any good. All right? So you still have to fix that volume problem. But yes, it is a good tip for that. Do you have any equipment? Well, yeah, of course we do. We have concentrators, oxygen bottles. We have Delta Vs, blood pressure cuffs, everything, weights, and I mean everything, like literally everything, you know. And also we have, John, hey, can you, I know they're going to construct in just a little bit. They're going to do some construction, but can you pan the camera over from the studio over here, just to face it over here? Okay. This right here is a gym, of course. So we can bring people in physically to work on the treadmills, to work on the bikes. We have balls, we have weights, everything. So we have everything in here for people to do therapy in-house as well as virtual, because we do both. We do virtual and in-house rehabilitation. So just keep that in mind. When you're wanting to do pulmonary rehabilitation, you do have an option of whether you want to do, in-house if you're in state, or do it all virtually. You don't have to come in at all. And the success rate will be identical, okay? Understand what I just said. The success rate will be identical, okay? They studied the program in and out. They saw the success rate were identical. The same success rate is going into a traditional facility, virtual. Virtual versus hands-on help, like the brick and mortar facilities, are identical in the same success rates. So you can't think, you should never think that, oh, the virtual program wouldn't be as great as if I did hands-on. No, it will be identical to the same outcomes, and that's already been proven. Best courses I've ever taken. Thank you very much. Do you need any special equipment at home to join your program? We usually send you the equipment. It's not a lot. It's just like one incentive spirometer. I need to measure lung volumes while you're in the program to make sure you're always improving. A Delta V, which is a respiratory muscle trainer. Therapy bands, a booklet, and a harmonica. That's pretty much all you need for the program. There might be, like maybe your doctor would recommend that you need to be on a flutter valve, like a VPAP or something because you have a lot of congestion. Then we'll ask you if you want to do something like that. And of course, you don't have to get any equipment from us. You can easily get them online. You don't have to purchase anything from us. We just do the therapy. Now, we do have equipment that we send to people, but anybody has an option of going on Amazon, getting a $15 hand and foot bike pedaler that you can use for your arms and your legs, You don't have to get anything from here. Where are you located? So we're located in Owings Mills, Maryland. Our address is 11155 Red Run Boulevard. We have a big neon, big sign out in front that says HRN that's attached to the building and everything. So a bike is necessary, but it is still considered optional in the program. Okay, because we can work out without a bike and still get the same results. Just the bikes do help quite a bit for exercising and tolerance to exercises. To join, join into the program. But guys, just to understand, I know a lot of people want to join into the program. I want to make sure everyone understands that if you're going to join into the program, make sure you're 100% serious about it. Okay, I can't stress that enough. You're talking about a program that is not a joke. Okay, the one program that could give you the best outcomes, meaning the best results, is HRN. I'm not doing it to sell the program. I'm telling you as a clinician, as a friend, I'm telling you that no one's going to beat this program. No facility can beat this program because so far they have not. We can say all highly great stuff about all these other programs, but the bottom line is that this program, HRN, has the highest success rate. It is the Bentley of all pulmonary and cardiac rehab programs. But we don't replace hands-on, so if somebody needs hands-on, we have places where that we partner with, like hospitals, that we can have you go over there, okay? But usually if you need hands-on, you just come in to the building. If you need, people that need a hands-on, just so you know, the people that need hands-on are people that can't walk by themselves. They get up and they're always, stumbling, or their balance is always off. So just keep that in mind, that we don't replace hands-on, but if you don't have that problem where you don't have a lot of balance issues like that, that you can do some things in your chair, get strengthened up, and then we can work on your balance later. Because we do work on balance. We work on vertigo, balance, nutrition, respiratory exercises, of course, pulmonary rehab, exercises, hard exercises. We go through all sorts of things: stress management, harmonica therapy, yoga, tai chi, you name it. That's why it's called a Home Rehab Network, is because we have a network of things, of other partnerships, and as well as other things that we do, not just with pulmonary rehab. So we don't just do the pulmonary, we also do the dietary, all that other stuff. I hope that makes sense. Do I need a treadmill? Oh, a treadmill. I start mine Tuesday with Melanie. You don't need a treadmill. I mean, if you have a treadmill, you want to use it. It's just, treadmills are okay. It's just with some treadmills, you're always standing, right? And what if you're out of breath during the exercise? So that's why I like the bikes instead of treadmills. You can still use a treadmill. I'm not saying you can't. But the reason why I like the bikes is that if you're a little winded, you're already sitting down in a bike. So all you have to do is just stop. Versus a treadmill, you have to find a place to sit, you know. And then you have to get off the treadmill, and maybe you're very winded and you're you're still breathing shallow, let's say. It might cause some harm to yourself, meaning that you get off the treadmill, your balance is way off because you're, not a lot of oxygen is coming in, when you start. So that's why I like the bikes better. Just because if you're a little winded, we don't expect anybody when they come into the program to be 100% when they first come in. We're expecting them to have lung disease, because that's all we can take. For a certified program, we can't take anybody. We have to take people that actually have a diagnosis of lung disease and heart disease. We have to have that. So then we ask your doctor, do you want your patients to be in this program? Then your doctor sends in a referral letter signed by him or her, and then you're in the program. Signing up in the program is very simple. It's a quick process. It's a lot of pulmonary rehab. Let me see if Dr. Shaw knows. Hey, Dr. Shaw. Yeah. Hey, just real quick. When you went to the hospitals and everything like that, what is the length of time or the wait time to join into a pulmonary rehab program, like a physical facility?
It could be anywhere from a month to 6 months.
A month to 6 months? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is a long time. And to see a doctor, like a pulmonologist?
6 months easy.
6 months easy?
Yeah.
So 6 months, sometimes the wait time for other facilities. Us, when you first sign up, we get you in. That's it. There's no wait time. There's not like a long wait time at all. Once your insurance says yes, and we get a response pretty quick. Once your insurance says yes, your doctor extends the referral, we sign you up for the first day. It's usually a 3-day process, unless there's some complications with your insurance, of course. But that's pretty much it. Guys, that's all the time I have today. The other questions that came up is how do I deal with flare-ups? That's the same thing as an exacerbation in a sense. So just kind of rewind the video that you're watching right now to look up when I brought up the exacerbation bomb. To deal with flare-ups, I hate to deal with it. I like to fix the problem. I hate dealing with anything. I like to fix the problem. But medication management will be high on that list. Learning how to exercise with lung disease. That's a longer process. So that's a quick question, but with a very, very long answer. You would have to be in the program to see the exercises. It's hard to do 7-8 years of exercises and routines in just a couple minutes. It's just not going to be enough time for that. I had my doctor for 20 years. Some of my lung problems are from chemicals. I understand. No worries, Cheryl. Just get in the program and I'll work with you. Don't worry about that. Okay, we have really good people here. I'm not kidding. Everybody always speaks very highly about our people. We have really good people. Guys, that's it. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, okay? See you back on Tuesday. See ya.